Hey, what's up, everybody? John Highley here with the Tactical Dent Tech podcast, bringing you a special episode today with my friend Grace Anderson, who is a door knocking pro. And we're going to start off today. I want you guys to get to know Grace a little bit. I want you guys to hear a little bit about her story before we get into some of the ins and outs of, some of this guerrilla marketing strategy that we call door knocking. Okay,
Yes.
So welcome, Grace.
Thank you for that awesome welcome. I am super pumped to be here and just share my story with your listeners and, kind of the ins and outs of what I've experienced and now what I help others do. So I'm pumped to be here.
Right on, Grace. So tell us a little bit about, interesting enough, Grace spoke at a business event that we go to monthly, or I should say at Mastermind. And she was talking a lot about, where she came from originally. So tell us a little bit about how you started. How did you get into door knocking? How did this all happen?
Yeah, so definitely was not my plan. And it's kind of something that God really put into my life. I always thought I was going to be a weather lady. Even from whenever I was a little girl, I thought, I'm going to be that weather lady. I'm going to be on the TV. I'm going to talk about weather. I'm going to chase tornadoes. I was so excited about it. So excited that even from a 5-year-old who could name every cloud, I was one of those weird little kids, all the way up until, getting my college degree in meteorology and, actually getting my dream job as a meteorologist, I knew that was it. Well, 2021 came around and so did vaccine mandates. And I don't know, everyone has different views, but my particular view was I'm not going to take something that, isn't scientifically backed because I was always very scientifically minded, right? And they said, well, you either take it or you don't come to work the next day. Well, I chose not to come to work, right? So I was kind of at a loss. I was at a very transitional spot. I didn't know what to do. My whole entire life, I was planning on being a meteorologist and being, a weather person. And that was something that was taken from me. Well, my husband, Reed, was always in the roofing industry. He started out knocking on doors and just being a door knocker. Then he started going into, being a salesperson, sales manager, all the way up until running a company. And I was like, you can do it. So I could probably do it. I'll start knocking doors for you. And I'm like, I'll just get you some leads so you can close the deals later on. Just gave me something to do and something, I could find value in doing. Because I saw it firsthand, how just the introduction at the door, how that just opens a door for so much business to be done. I'm like, well, if I can get you more doors opened, then you can get more business, which is, win-win for everybody, right? So I started doing this and I realized okay, this is actually really fun. I get to talk to new people every single day. Yeah, sure, I'll get a couple of doors slammed in my face, but I also can make a few friends. And so that's kind of my perspective, that every single time a door would be open to me, I would see it as, an opportunity to make somebody's day better or, potentially close them later in the day, right? So I started doing that and, Reed's company was really, really growing. And then they needed a recruiter because they were, hiring some people, wasn't really focused effort hiring. Then I got into recruiting and really learning how to sell, because whenever I learned how to sell, I learned how to find good salesmen and find people who were really good at, getting leads, but also really good at, building those relationships with people and closing. And I could keep on going on, how I made my way through the roofing industry and now what I do, but that's just kind of how I got started on, showing up at people's doorsteps and asking them for money, basically.
Yeah, that's good. No, that's good. So I like what you said there. I mean, you had a dream, and that dream kind of got crushed. And I think there's a lot of people that can relate to that. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of folks who have particular opinions on that. Everybody knows my opinion. They could go back and see why I got banned on Facebook years ago and all this and that. I'm not going to go into it. I'm not going to rant about it. You guys all know my position on the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But that being said, you had to make a pivot, and when you made that particular pivot, it was natural for you to go into the roofing industry because you had Reed, who had already showed you the possibilities.
Right.
And, you had somebody there to maybe mentor you a little bit. And I think that's what's happening today, having you on this podcast, having Grace on this podcast, is that we're getting a little bit of powerful mentorship here. So I really want you guys to listen in on a lot of this, right? Because what Grace said is that she started off door knocking, and I know actually there's a lot of automotive technicians and dent guys out there. Not a lot, but there are some that will actually door knock, get the car, go fix it, and then go door knock again, right?
Love that.
And yes, so that's a type of hustle, and I think there's a little bit of a market for that, but I also know individuals who, maybe you have a shop inside of a particular city, and that city hadn't been hit with hail for years. And this has happened to me when I lived in Ohio. And then all of a sudden you get a storm, and it's like, where in the world do I find door knockers at this time when it's really not even a big thing?
Right. And that is something that, even the roofing industry struggles with sometimes. If you don't have a specific recruiting strategy and also, training strategy, you won't have the people in place and ready to go whenever it's go time. Because whenever it is go time, you have to be quick on your feet. That's not the time to start hiring people, right? So having that team already, lined up, understanding, inbound leads are great, but also going out there and doing that, the guerrilla type of getting out there and talking to people, strange people, on their doorstep. That is super important whenever a storm hits, because if you're not doing it, somebody else is, and somebody else is getting that business that you could be getting. So finding those right people, they're going to be the same type of people who are go-getters and closers. Whenever there's an opportunity, they're going to, jump on it. But specifically, they need to be able to have the mentality to turn off their brain and get to work, because whenever a storm hits, you have, we always call it 14 days. You have 14 days of just grinding it out. There's no time for, I'm going to take a break today, because any type of break that you do take, you're going to be losing business. So being able to target those areas that just got smoked with hail, you have to have somebody who has a mentality and who has a proven track record of being able to push through, some type of hardship, and being able to really push through and be mentally sharp, even whenever, they might be 13 and 14 days into talking to strangers all day long.
Right.
And I don't know exactly how you want me to expand on that. I could talk forever about how to recruit, but I know there's a little bit of nuances within two different industries.
Sure. But I think we're very similar, so in a lot of ways. So I think from the recruiting aspect, I know that you could go to the Mormon church or you could go to the Jehovah Witness church, because they definitely door knock, and they get a lot of, doors slammed in their face.
Yes.
So they're already used to the rejection, right? However, I believe that you're also looking for individuals that, I think you hit on something before, is that when you sat down in a recruiting interview, this is one thing that really stuck in my mind when the last time you spoke, is that when you're sitting down for a recruiting interview, you would be more inclined to hire the people that had a particular goal, meaning they had an actual monetary goal. Maybe they wanted to move out of their parents' house, or maybe they wanted to buy their first car, or maybe they needed to pay off something. But the individuals that were just trying it out tended to be the individuals who didn't work out so well. So could you walk us through maybe a little bit? I mean, I think you called them red flags.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit, if storm hits my city, I need to recruit people fast. I believe the people that have local operations, they have a little bit of a window there, because you're going to have clients coming in anyway, so there's a little bit of a window there, but you don't want to leave that window open for too long.
Right. Absolutely. So the red and green flags of recruiting, that is something that I have learned to put together, because I hired a lot of people who I thought were, extroverted, so great, and they were trying to look for a new experience. And whenever you ask somebody, hey, why did you apply to this position? And they say, I'm just looking for a new experience. I'm telling you right now, this is not the experience that they were looking for. If they're just looking for a new opportunity, a new experience, and don't have a set goal, as soon as they see the first sign of resistance, they're going to be like, oh, is this even worth it? Is this worth my time? I should just go get, a 9-to-5 job at Denny's or wherever it is, right? But finding somebody who has a very specific goal. And like you said, it could be buying a house. It could be, being debt free. It could be, I want to make 100,000, 200. It could be a monetary number. As long as they have a clear set goal, that's going to push them through those hard days, right? They're going to be able to, look at that sign of resistance and be like, hey, it doesn't matter. I can have the mentality to be like, yeah, door slammed in my face, but that doesn't matter. That's one more door closer to me making that money. And that's whenever you have a goal to, get you past those doors slammed, it's so much clearer for those recruits. And then another thing is, I know a lot of companies, they have core values. For some companies, they might be, just a poster on the wall that nobody ever looks at. But a lot of times it could be, core values that are really ingrained into the culture of the company. If you're a company like the second one that has a really ingrained culture, you have your core values and you know it. So for example, if one of your core values is excellence, whenever you interview somebody, ask them how they are currently pursuing excellence without them knowing that it's one of your core values. That's how you're going to be able to see, okay, if somebody is, pursuing excellence. Oh yeah, well, I like going to the gym. I like educating myself. I like reading. I'm constantly in the Word, whatever it might be, as long as they are currently pursuing one of your core values or multiple or all of your core values, that shows that's somebody who's going to mesh well with your culture and meet those expectations that you have set for them. Those are just a couple of the green flags. You can go through some more red flags if you'd like.
Sure.
So another one is somebody who asks a lot of questions. And that's kind of a debate within the recruiting world, because a lot of times people think, okay, if I'm asking a lot of questions, that means it looks like I'm interested in the job. Well, guess what? You applied for the job, so of course you're interested. So we don't need to know that you're interested. We need to know the substance behind it, right? So if somebody is interrupting you, asking, about, hey, like, what are the benefits? What are the hours? What about, paid time off? All of those little nitty gritty questions shouldn't matter to the right candidate. The right candidate who's going to make door knocking work is going to have I'm going to figure it out along the way. I believe in this company, and I believe that I can reach my goal with this company. I don't care about paid time off. I don't care about, vacation and, benefits, because no matter what they are, I'm going to be okay with it because I know and I believe in this vision. So somebody who is really, honed in on their goal and the vehicle to get to their goal, which is, your company, that's going to be a total game changer rather than someone who's like, well, I need to weigh out my options and look at all the different benefits and things like that.
No, that's incredible. Yeah, so that's ultimately, that's not just recruiting, I believe, for door knockers. I mean, that would be recruiting in general, right? Which I love. And that's a great point, because I believe that we all struggle in the automotive industry with the recruiting deal, right? I know that I have, and I've recruited the wrong people, Yes. And there's been a lot of learning lessons, and many of the guys out here have dealt with the exact same thing. And speaking of that, we also have a hard training curve, and then it's like once you get them trained, you got the potential to lose them. So it's critically important at the beginning to definitely get the right people.
Right.
But that being said, you said something specifically about training and about putting people out on the streets and getting them trained, to go do the door knocking. So tell us a little bit about what that looks like, and when should you start hiring? Like maybe how many months before hail season? If we've got some people listening to this right now saying, hey, I've done Facebook ads, I've done Google ads, but now this year we are going to get into a little bit of door knocking for this hail season. How many months ahead of time would you start prepping to get a crew together?
So, I mean, you're also speaking to the meteorologist here. It depends on your location, right? Hail season does kind of rotate around the nation, but say beginning of hail season, which is, the southeast, like Alabama, Georgia, like that type of region, that's going to be early March. You can start seeing some nasty hailstorms. Yeah. Whereas if you're up in, Wisconsin or up north, Chicago, areas like that, you're going to see the, hail season really being peak in May, June, and July. So it's hard to say like exactly what month you should start. But if you know when hail season is for you, I would say about a month and a half or a month before, it starts. That's whenever you need to get people in the door and hired. So a month and a half, I would say start recruiting out a month and a half, and then a month get people starting to train. And what that training process really looks like is you get them hired. And another key thing I'm going to hit on real quick is whenever you do hire someone and you tell them they have the job, there might be a lag of a week to a couple weeks before they actually start. Make sure you're following up with them every 48 hours because if they're looking at your job, they are looking at other people's job. They might fall off. And say if you're expecting 10 new guys to start next Monday and then only 4 showed up, it's because your follow-up game wasn't strong enough. So keep that up. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Whenever you are hiring and training, before they start, give them at least a week before they start. And we always do onboarding classes. So it's not, your time isn't split between, Steve starts on Monday, John starts on Tuesday, and, it's not, so chaotic. Have an onboarding class where they already have video types of training that they've been able to, just at least get familiar with, whether it's lead generation, closing, any part of your process that's really important that they can learn in a video, have them learn it prior, right? And then once they can start day one, they're already going to kind of feel confident, like, oh yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Well, then that's whenever you get into the nuances and the nitty gritty of, classroom training. I always like to do at least 3 days of classroom training, aka in your office, just face-to-face interactions and working through those. Then whenever you go out into the field, day one, start going out into the field in the afternoon, and you go and either a sales manager, a field trainer, whoever's the leader, they're going to show them how it's done in the afternoon by knocking on doors, talking to people, or if say you're not in an environment that has any dents around because there hasn't been a storm in 2 years or something like that, going through role playing even in like their neighborhoods, just so they understand the environment, they understand what to go through, and what objections they're going to face. And then once they feel comfortable enough, they're able to go out on their own and go from there. That's kind of the overview. We absolutely encourage, video trainings. That's paramount before they start. And then after they start, that's whenever, you really get hands-on.
Wow. We might have to hire Grace to do a video training course for us or partner with her or something, right? So no, that's incredible. I love the idea that you're already working on, number one, the training to get them kind of just familiar with what it is they're going to be doing, right. But then also coming back and working the common objections. And I believe you're talking about maybe a little bit of role playing when it comes to, it's like you're standing there and you're the customer and they got to walk up and you're doing common objections and they need to combat them common objections. So a lot of that, I believe, you can create a list, an ongoing list of particular common objections and how you work around them common objections without being rude or without being, without getting a bad Google review on your Google, you don't want that, right? So you want people to be, in my opinion, to be polite and professional. And a lot of you guys out there who own a local company, it's pretty easy. They could go around and even say, hey, here's our Google reviews. We've been in the community for over 10 years, and these are the type of cars, and these are the people that we've worked on. We want to make sure that your car's taken care of appropriately. We do work with every insurance company, and we'll handle the whole process and on and on and on, right?
Absolutely.
So there's always kind of like a sales pitch. And it's so funny because we had a podcast recently with my wife, Angela, who answered our phone for years. And we talked a lot about that, about the common objections. And then for a while, she was scared to take hail damage repair phone calls because she didn't want to lose out on a $10,000 job, respectively.
Yeah.
But then she listened. She heard the common objections. She heard the sales pitch. And after she heard all of that, she was good to go. She could talk to the clients and customers. And she did it better than me, is the truth. Of course, she did. Yeah, so she did it better than me. So, that is awesome, Grace. That's a good start to the podcast, just giving us a layout of, what it is that we need to prepare ourselves for. And getting a little bit deeper into that, I would ask you, when you guys bring on new trainees, what does the pay look like? Because I think that's a struggle in the automotive industry, because I believe a lot of times we will pay out percentages. And I think that the percentages may be too high in some cases.
Okay.
Because I've heard of people paying up to 20% for a door knock, and at that cost, you could really get leads in even less using other advertising methods. So when it comes to, let's just say you hire a team, you're training them, what's your investment? What do you pay them for training? I know it's less than. And you don't have to give your company specific numbers, by the way.
Okay.
But I would like you to just give us some sort of examples.
So it's not 20% of a deal, that's for sure. It's a flat rate, right? Because we pay, it's 100% commission only. So it's not hourly, it's nothing like that. You get paid on the results that you get, right? But we want it to be at least, lucrative enough for somebody to be like, oh, I want to do this full time. And we've made it in such a way that some guys come in, they want to do sales, and then they're like, oh no, this is easy money, just going and getting leads. And so the way that we have this structured is they get a little bit of money. It's half and half. So whenever a lead is set up, they don't get any money. But we call and confirm the appointment saying, hey, just want to make sure, 10 a.m. tomorrow works for you. If they answer the call and they're a real person, they're going to get half of that lead up front, whether that's $50, $80, $100, half of what they could get paid for that lead that canvasser or door knocker would get. Then once that appointment actually shows up, they're going to get another half, right? So generally we've paid out from like $100 to $200 to $300 per lead. We're normally like, there are different companies that we're working with are between 100 and 150 per lead right now. Just because we're able to get so many, because there's been so many stinking storms, that, you know, it's easy to get, you know, make 1,000 to 2,000 a week just on leads alone. So they get a little bit whenever the lead confirms, and then a little bit whenever it's somebody who doesn't ghost an appointment. They just show up. Then the dependency on, you know, you actually closing the deal, that's not the canvasser's fault, right? They don't want to, you know, have their livelihood depend on your ability to close. So that's why we have it, you know, flat fee. You know what you're going to make. You don't have to, you know, keep following up with the sales rep to see if they closed or not.
So you're kind of using like setters and then closers is really what this comes down to.
If they're getting paid for that. Now, however, we have our closers. They also go out and door knock. It is such a lucrative way to get leads, and that's free leads for you, the business owner. That, you know, that's free lead generation, and they just close those deals. So
yeah,
you can't get better than free leads.
Yeah. So no, I totally understand that, and I like the aspect of that. It's almost like you know, we used to do this deal with like the sales table rooms, right, where there would be these call centers, and what you would do is you would have 4 individuals that were qualifiers, right, and they would just be dialing all day long, and then you had one guy at the end of the table that was the closer. And so what they would do is the 4 people that were dialing for dollars, you know, all day long, would get somebody on the line, and they would qualify an individual, and they would hand the phone to the closer or transfer the phone call over to the closer. And the closer would close them, and they would split the commission. So the closer was making big money because he's got 4 people feeding him qualified leads.
Right.
And then the 4 people were making less money, but they were less qualified than the closer. So the way that I kind of see this is that you got individuals who can close and probably even jump up on the roof and do the inspection. I mean, I'm sure there's individuals who can actually do that. And I think in the automotive dent removal industry, that's not far-fetched to have an individual, especially with appropriate training, to at least do the first line, the first inspection, if you guys still do that out there, and then also close it. But then you've also got individuals that are just driving leads, and these might be the new ones that you hire that only got a month worth of training, and then you just train them to send the leads to you, because you know you got to check the conversion rate, but eventually the conversion rate might be pretty good. You know, maybe you get a 50% conversion, a 20% conversion, whatever that looks like. So going into that, if you got somebody who is just a canvasser, what is your KPIs? Because I always set up KPIs for my team and my sales team. It's like, bro, if I'd have you dialing 100 times a day, there better be 3 people booking appointments, you know?
Right.
And so, and that's, I know that sounds like not a lot, but there's a compound effect to that. And, you know, I'd like you to maybe touch on that a little bit.
So the KPIs for door knocking, I feel pretty strongly on. They are so important. So I'm glad you touched on them. If you're in a generally populated area, say like Dallas, Houston, you know, Atlanta, areas like that, that's going to be at least 200 doors a week. And that sounds like not a lot, but that's 45 doors a day. That's so freaking doable. Whenever, you know, you're, especially in a storm zone, right? If you're in a storm zone, those people need help, whether they're going to use you or somebody else. That's up to you and your ability to close. But if you're knocking 400 or 200 doors a week, that's going to be very manageable. And if you want to get that all knocked out on Friday and Saturday, go for it, right? That's the ability of, you know, being commission only. You're able to really, you know, make your own schedule. But at the same time, having that, you know, 200 doors a week, that's going to at least generate, you know, decent door knocker is going to have about at least 30 doors to 1 lead. So, and for us, that translates into a pretty big commission check because our closing rate's pretty high. So if you have, you know, a lower closing ratio, say like closing at 20, 30%, you need to up those numbers, right? But for us, if we knock, or even a closer knocks 200 doors a week, they know they're going to be closing, like for us, our closers might knock 10 doors and, you know, close the deal off of those 10 doors. So it really is just dependent on the individual. But you're also able to track, you know, hey, if Johnny's knocking 200 doors and only got 4 leads this week, let's figure out what's going on at the doors, because that's 50 doors that he's just burning through, right? So you kind of have to adjust per person, but I'd say $200 is a good sample size.
Yeah, it's very quick. I mean, you actually can get immediate feedback to know if your team that you put together is actually doing what it is that you need them to do. And that's where KPIs come in, because there's going to be times when you're going to have to realize Johnny's just not cut out for the job. We went back and forth and we've tried it and we've put him out there. And although we like Johnny, it just isn't working, right? So there's also going to be that element in the hiring structure and then in the deployment. So speaking about that, so, I mean, do you guys have these guys climbing all over each other, or do you give them particular areas?
So we scout out areas for them to work as a group. Now, once they get there, we like to kind of have a group knock system, meaning that, hey, everyone, let's meet out here at 3 o'clock, because 3 o'clock is when people start getting home. And then they kind of divvy it up themselves. But, if somebody they're not on top of each other because we give them a big enough area to work, and they don't want to be on top of each other either. So we let them kind of divvy it out. But say Johnny seems like he sucks, honestly. But say Johnny didn't, set a lead, and then Paul comes in right behind him and sets that lead. Too bad, that we want people to kind of be over one another, because maybe Paul really clicked with that old lady that had her car that was all dented up, but Johnny really didn't. So it's okay that they're all on top of each other. But they also want their best interest in place. We give them an area that might have, say, 300, 400 houses. They can divvy it up between themselves.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Another aspect of this is something that I'm seeing happening a lot in the DFW market. I'm also seeing it happen, Josh and Megan out there in Kansas. Mm-hmm. They're actually working with a friend of mine, Keith. And it's so funny because they told me that he was taking care of their automotive repair, right? So there's a little bit of leverage here, I believe, for automotive companies to start getting in with some roofing companies.
Yes.
And, allow them to go out and do their job. But it is a natural thing for if a roofing company comes and does a house, well, there's typically going to be damaged cars at that house. In most cases, especially in my case, when I got hit with hail earlier this year, I mean, I had 2 cars that were damaged. So it is a natural progression. Are you seeing that start to catch on in the roofing industry?
For the more advanced companies, yes. Some roofing companies just keep their head down and they don't really know what's going on. You got to be careful with who you're partnering up with as well. But whenever you have like heavy hitters like Megan and Josh, or like Reed and I, who are, cranking out the roofs, we do over 4,000 roofs a year. So if even a portion of those people also had their vehicles dented, absolutely we had to close their deal, and then we'd be able to say like, hey, I know your cars are also affected, like we actually partner with a really great company, XYZ, PDR, they really need some help, or they really can help you out. And then they just get connected, and they already trust you because they've already closed with the roofing company. So getting a referral that, maybe can take care of them, at the same time, or something pretty quick, that's going to be really powerful. If you're partnering with larger, well-known companies, I would be wary of the smaller mom and pops. But if you work with the larger ones who can handle, referrals, it's so powerful. Again, those are literally free leads. And likewise, if you partner with a roofing company and, if you fix someone's cars and then you see that their roof might have missing shingles, or obviously y'all don't know exactly what to look for, and that's okay. But if you can tell it's older still, be like, hey, I actually have a roofing company that we partner with. I can have them come by and do an inspection to see if y'all have, decent hail damage, or if y'all need to be fixed up. So just really easy partnership there.
Yeah, so that's good. And I really want to stress the power of this type of partnership, because essentially what this is called, it's called affiliate marketing. Mm-hmm. And what I love about affiliate marketing is that your cost, meaning that if you get a referral from a roofing company, you close the deal, then they get a particular percentage. There's a check that goes, or maybe that's a flat fee like you had spoke about earlier, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever you decide to work out with the company is what you decide to work out with the company. But that being said, if you know your cost, you can actually scale and grow it. Mm-hmm. Traditional advertising, we're fortunate enough because we ran over $1 million in, ads in multiple markets, that I kind of know the cost in just about every market. It goes up in the more saturated markets and it goes down in the less saturated markets, right? Has a little bit to do with the company, but I generally know the cost. But there is a lot of fluctuation when you try to do it yourself and you don't have a system, and you're trying to do it off your website instead of a funnel, and there's all of these different complications that you can actually mitigate by just partnering with a roofing company, and then you're not going to have to invest your money into this strategy, right? So we got a marketing course that's coming out here very soon for the automotive industry, and there's going to be a lot in there about these particular ways to generate leads, the benefits, disadvantages, all that fun stuff. But the truth of the matter is partnering with a company that's going to give you leads and you got a set percentage, there's no disadvantage in that unless you give away the farm. It's scalable.
Right.
So, well, that's incredible. When it comes to, let me ask you something. When it comes to recruiting and just finding people, do you run ads in the newspaper? Do you go out on Facebook, or what are you looking for?
So some people will hate that I say this, but Indeed actually works really well. And a lot of people, they just don't know how to work it correctly, and that's why they hate it. That's one way to get, it's a cast net, right? Mm-hmm. There's two approaches for recruiting. Whenever you do a cast net out on Indeed, you'll get everybody. But you can weed through them pretty quickly whenever you have the correct red and green flags that you look for, right? Sure. But that's going to give you a high number of applicants that come in, especially if you do a paid ad. Even if you throw $5 a day at it, that's going to bump up your ad further up on the page, because you don't want the people who are flipping through 15 pages of job ads to apply to yours, right? That means they're just kind of trying, right? You want somebody who's like, okay, I have some confidence in myself. I have confidence in my ability to sell. Let me see who's out there. They're going to see you. Even if you throw $5, $10 a day at this ad, you're going to get a little bit better quality applicants. That's going to, and doing an initial Zoom interview with those Indeed applicants, very important. You want to see how they present themselves. You want to see if that's somebody that you want to even waste your time with them coming in. Definitely set up a Zoom video with them. But there's also another way that's much more direct, which is headhunting, which is finding people who maybe, they might be a bartender at a restaurant that you go to all the time, and they might be really, really friendly, and just talking with them, you're like, hey, this is what I got going on. Be like, you know what? I think you might be a really good fit. Like, let's have a conversation. Those types of conversations are so valuable. Finding somebody in real life, but also even on Facebook, just shooting them a message saying like, hey, looks like you're killing it in car sales, or whatever it might be. Like, hey, this is what we got going on. If you're open to better opportunity, just let me know. And then sometimes people will be like, yeah, I'll listen. And you might be really able to headhunt and find those stone cold killers that could be on your team that way. So that's how you find a little bit higher quality, although you can't bet on that every single week coming in.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because the truth of the matter is, if you can prospect a little bit, meaning that you're looking for a particular type of individual, one of the things that I've seen in the past work really well and is to find that person, that guy or that gal in your community that's very well known, but you can tell they're also very underpaid or underappreciated at maybe their place of employment. Right. And if you could see the goodness, and if you could see the potential in that individual and reach out to them, you have the opportunity of taking somebody who's already a pillar in the community, who maybe already has a decent amount of people that love who they are and that know, like, and trust them already, and you can put them in position to do well and make a lot of money and use the relationships they've built to their benefit in their new employment. So there's a little bit there to be said, and one of the things when I talked to Kurt Linnington, they had a similar model. They looked for particular people in the community that had, and you guys should already know this, but I'm going to say this because I know a lot of guys are not much of recruiters. You should stalk their social media. You should go look at the things they say.
Creeper. Yes.
Like you really should read it just to make sure you don't have somebody who's going to do something or say something really weird, meaning they're going to represent your company, and then something stupid's going to come out of their mouth that you don't want.
We've learned that the very hard way. So
yes. So you got to be very careful with that. You want good people. You want people that will represent your business appropriately, and to make a good impression not only for themselves in a community aspect, but also for your business that they're going to be aligning with. So,
Yes.
That being said, Grace, is there any other advice or anything that you want to talk about that you want to get into that you can give us today? Because you've given us so much value.
Thank you.
So much value.
Here to share as much as I can. There's nothing like door to door. We absolutely love Facebook ads. We love, SEO. We love things like that, but there's nothing like showing up on somebody's doorstep. That's something that AI can't replace, or gosh, it'd be really scary if it did. But just showing up to someone's doorstep and being that first interaction with the company. And maybe they say no to you now, but they're going to remember you, or at least maybe might recognize your logo. And just building that familiarity is really strong. So if you're kind of on the fence on whether or not you want to, go out door to door because, it might be dated, I tell you what, it is not, especially whenever you do it the right way. Don't sound scripted. Don't sound like, hi, I'm Grace. I'm with PDR company, right? You don't want to sound like a robot. You want to be like, hey, I just had to come by and introduce myself because of this going on in the neighborhood. Here's why I'm here. And just being like very frank about it and be like, hey, come outside and come talk with me. Let me show you what I saw in your car, whatever it might be. Really get them out and engage with you. Door to door is something that I never thought I'd be a pro at. I never thought I'd know so much about roofs, diesel trucks, and, door to door sales, but yet here I am. And I'm here to, pour into people whenever they might need.
Now you drive a F-250 or F-350?
F-250. Yes,
all right.
That's my mom-mobile.
It is a big one.
It is a big girl.
Very big one.
I got my pink rock lights on there.
I've seen that.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, we're big diesel truck drivers for sure.
So Grace, diesel truck driving, door knocking, powerful, wonderful woman here. And so Grace, tell us a little bit about if anybody wants to get a hold of you or anybody wants to talk to you about potentially consulting. Yeah. I know that your schedule is very busy, but if anybody wanted to reach out or just maybe give you a follow, how would they do so?
Find my Facebook, Grace Anderson. It'll be a picture of my husband and I. Just reach out, send me a DM. Also have an Instagram. It's a little bit longer, but if you search up Grace Anderson, it'll pop up. And just reach out to me. I'm here to talk with whoever might need help. I do consult with a few companies. I don't have a ton of time because we are still growing and scaling our companies. I know we've been in now 2 new states in the past month, so we're really scaling things out. But if somebody, is needing help with scaling or recruiting or building out the right training or, having the right KPI set in place for their specific market and not, having to compete with the lowest bidder, that is not where y'all's value is. Don't be the lowest bidder. I'm here to help and at least have a conversation with them to see if you would be a good fit with one another. So send me a DM if that's something that, you feel like you could benefit from, and maybe we might be a good fit for one another.
That sounds incredible, Grace. I appreciate you taking the time to come over here and be on the podcast. And Tactical Dent Tech audience, as usual, I'll see you on the next one.